Sports Talk with Elite Wagers.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk with Elite Wagers. I am your host, Elite Wagers. Big, huge card last week, a lot bigger than I normally do. There was a lot of action over the course of the weekend, international competitions in football. We had some UFC and the Formula 1 as well. Did relatively well in total. Went 11-9, which in terms of the record I wasn't too happy about. I'd like the record to have looked a little bit cleaner, but in terms of the results and the actual profit we took 7.2 units profit. So the profit looked good, but the record didn't look too good. But some of the results just didn't bounce our way. A last-minute goal for Italy against Germany cost the Germany money line. Verstappen came extremely close to a top 3 finish in qualifying and in the race. But you know, some things just don't bounce your way, and that's just gambling. So we sit with plus 7.21 units across the weekend. That actually takes us to plus 16.16 units over the last 2 weeks, with an 18-13 record over those 2 weeks as well. So we're in some nice run of form. But since last week was a very, very busy one, I'm going to keep this one quite short. I'm going to focus on a few little angles. I'll have another segment on fantasy football, especially for the EPL Final Sprint over on FanTeam. I'll run through that again for anyone that missed it last week. I'll also go through a few FA Cup contests that I'm playing on FanTeam as well this weekend. I just want to point out as well that MLB is back. I had a few plays over on my Twitter the other day, along with one of the MLB fantasy contests over on FanTeam. I'm not going to be using MLB as much on the podcast, mainly due to it being a daily sort of, daily plays. I don't have enough time in the day to be able to do a podcast episode every day. So if you would like to tail along to my baseball plays, then you're going to have to get me on Twitter. So you need to click the link in the bio. It will be there. Click the link tree, click on Twitter, and then follow me, and you can see all my daily baseball plays over on there. As well as that, I am actually running a contest over on my Twitter. It'll be on the pinned tweet of my profile, and it's a giveaway for 3 Final Sprint fantasy contest tickets. All you got to do is follow myself, follow FanTeam, and then comment Final Sprint, and you'll be entered into the draw, which will be drawn on Sunday evening. And again, I'm giving away 3 Final Sprint contests for FanTeam's EPL contest. So getting into this week's slate and things like that, I'm going to focus in on the football, I think.
Football.
So coming off the back of the international break, we've got the FA Cup for the UK-based competitions. There's no Premier League until next week. They start Tuesday. So I'm going to focus in this week on the FA Cup and a few little selections I've got over in the European contests. But we're going to start off with the early kickoff on Saturday. That's Fulham versus Crystal Palace. One thing that actually stood out for me in this game for both of these two sides is the Palace away record. They've won all of their away games this year. They've conceded 0 in all 6 games as well. In fact, you'd have to go all the way back to mid-December to find the last away goal conceded, which was a 3-2 loss against Arsenal. In general, Palace have lost just 2 games in the last 15 matches, including winning all of their FA Cup games by a combined 6-1. As for Fulham, they've had to beat Man United on penalties to get here. Their recent form isn't anywhere near as good as Palace. Fulham have won 6 of the last 10 games, with their home record being worse than Palace's away record too. And they've actually they've won just 4 of the last 10, including a 2-0 loss at home against Palace. Fulham haven't made the FA Cup semi-finals since 2001, where Crystal Palace have made the semi-finals of the FA Cup twice since 2001. And that obviously includes a final appearance in 2015 as well. So for me, all signs point to the underdogs in this game. I actually think Palace have the better form. I think they are the better team. They show what they can do on the road. They've scored 2+ in 7 of the last 10 games, and that obviously also helps. And again, conceding very little definitely helps more. So I think Palace have what it takes to be able to qualify from this game, get themselves back into the semi-finals for the third time since 2000 turn. So I'm going to go for Crystal Palace to qualify +110. And then the second game, there's only 2 games on Saturday, so the second of the 2 games on Saturday is Nottingham Forest against Brighton. The form of Brighton has been extremely good recently, and we have to hope that the international break didn't halt their form after they went 7 games without a loss. Forest, fairly similar situation. They won 4 straight games without a loss, obviously making this game a very tough one to call. While current form might give Brighton the edge, obviously 7 games to 4 games unbeaten, a 7-0 battering for Forest against Brighton, that'll give Forest a psychological edge. Both teams have done a fantastic job this year. They're both in prime position to qualify for Europe next season, but for me in this game it's hard not to back any goals. Both teams to score has hit in 60% of the last 10 games for both sides. Over 2.5 goals has hit in 80% of both teams in the last 10 games. So which is the better angle to go for? For me, I think over 2.5 goals has the higher upside. As mentioned, it's hit in 80% of both teams' last 10 games. Brighton are in great goal-scoring form. They've scored 2 or more in 6 of the last 7 games. And in Forest games, there's been 19 goals in the last 8 games. So there's goals for both teams to be scored and to be conceded as well. Add to that, there's been 11 goals in the last 2 head-to-head games with a 7-0 win and a 2-2 draw. I believe there's going to be plenty more goals in this head-to-head matchup as well. So I'm going to go for Brighton and Forest over 2.5 goals at odds of -125. So in the first game on the Sunday, which is the third game of the FA Cup weekend, we've got a really classical FA Cup tie. A lower league team facing a top team in the UK. Preston sit in the middle of the championship, while Aston Villa are preparing for their Champions League quarter-final. So there's a huge difference between the two teams. But, you have to ask the question, is there any chance Preston can upset Villa? Given the fact Preston haven't been able to beat a top-flight team in this competition since 2007, meaning they have an 18 out of 19 record to the loss in the FA Cup against top-flight opponents, you have to say no. Preston do have a home draw though. That could be a very, very big boost considering they've lost just 3 home games since the beginning of the season. They've actually gone 15 unbeaten at home. Villa have struggled a little away from home as well. They've won just 4 of the last 10 away games. That could also be a good thing for Preston too. Villa have conceded at least 2 goals in 8 of the last 10 Premier League away games, where on the flip side Preston have scored 14 goals in their last 10 home games. The international break may have broken Villa's rhythm. They've had 17 players travel in the world with their countries. Another thing to consider is Villa have a tough 3-game schedule coming up in the next 7 days, starting on Tuesday with a game against Brighton. Then they play Nottingham Forest on the Sunday, and then they play PSG on the Wednesday. So 7 days, 3 big games in the Premier League and the Champions League campaign this year. So we could actually see a few names rested in order to refrain from fatigue. Obviously, with the international break, they might find this a bit of a game where they can rest a few players. I actually really enjoy watching Villa play. I might be overthinking this particular bet, but although I believe Villa can and will make it out of the semi-final, I think they will be shocked at how tough Preston can be, and I actually think Preston will be able to score and cause trouble. I'm going to go with Preston and Aston Villa both teams to score, yes, at -105 in this game. And then heading over to the final game of the FA Cup weekend, it's Man City versus Bournemouth, probably the game of the weekend. To start the year, Man City, they were the favourites to win the FA Cup, favourites to win the Premier League, and they were one of the top Champions League contenders as well. Now they're out of the running in the Champions League and the Premier League. leaving the FA Cup as their last chance at silverware this year. It's been a disappointing year for Man City. There's, the level of these two teams has been really, really similar, which you wouldn't have expected last year. Hence the reason why there's no sort of heavy favourite in this game. Bournemouth are very, very close to a historic season. They sit 5 points from the top four. They're about to play in just their third quarter-final in the FA Cup in their history, and they've never made it further. Man City love the FA Cup, on the other hand. They have reached the semi-finals in 6 straight seasons, which is a record in this competition. Man City have been dominant for a number of years. They haven't lost an away tie in the FA Cup since February 2018, winning 14 straight away games, scoring 40 goals in the process. But with that being said, this season they have slipped a lot. Man City have only won 2 of the last 6 away games, with those wins being against an out-of-form Spurs and Leyton Orient, making this clash with Bournemouth a very, very difficult one to call. But this game may have come at the right time for Man City. Bournemouth going winless in the last 5 games, although Man City's recent form isn't too good either. I think they will be able to navigate themselves around this tricky team and keep their active FA Cup of 6 straight semi-finals in play. And I expect Man City to progress from this game. So I'm going to go for Man City to qualify at minus 130. I just think the quality of Man City is going to be really tough for Bournemouth to navigate around. And I think, like I said, I think this game's come at the right time for Man City. I think they can prove that they're not in a massive slump. Again, with this being their last chance at silverware, I think they'll take an extra drive, an extra gear into this game. I think Man City to qualify at minus 130 is good value considering their record in the FA Cup over the last couple of years. Heading over to the European League, we're going to go to the Serie A, and we're going to go for Lecce against Roma. The form for both teams, it differs a vast amount. Lecce have won just 2 of the last 10 games, with both of these two teams ranking in the bottom 4. They now face a top 6 team in Roma, and Roma have only lost 1 in the last 10 games. So the records are hugely different. Add to that, Lecce have lost 13 of the last 15 games to teams in the top half of the league. And again, add to that again, their home record is awful. They've won just 2 home Serie A games this season, and they've scored just 2 home goals in the last 5 games. Ranieri took over Roma when they were just 4 points above relegation back in November, and now they find themselves battling for a Champions League place. In 2015, no other team in Europe has accumulated more points, they've got 29, than Ranieri and Roma. I expect Roma to continue to push for Champions League. These are the kind of games that they need to win to do that. The confidence will be high after a 4-1 head-to-head win a few months ago, and knowing they haven't lost to Lecce since 2012 will help as well. I just think Roma are the more talented team, in the better form, and they have more to play for. So I'm going to go Roma moneyline at minus 115. And from Italy, we're going to go to Germany, and it's going to be in the Dortmund and Mainz game. There's been a huge dip in form for Dortmund. They're normally pushing for a Champions League place. We've seen them in the Champions League for a number of years. But this year, Dortmund sit in 11th, and Mainz are on the verge of the Champions League qualification, sitting 10 points higher in 3rd position. Nothing seems to be going right for Dortmund. They've lost 7 of the last 11 Bundesliga games in 2015, which includes just 2 wins for their new manager in his opening 6 games. On the flip side, Mainz have only lost 3 of their 11 games in 2015, with no other team taking more points than Mainz in the last 5 games, with 13 points. Mainz goal scoring record has been great recently as well. They've managed to score 2+ in 5 straight games. That could be a huge problem for Dortmund, as they've conceded the 7th most amount of goals this year. Home advantage shouldn't factor too much, as Dortmund have only won 2 of their last 10 games, while Mainz have lost just 4 of their last 10 away games. This will be their first head-to-head game this season, and with all things considered in terms of their form, the goal scoring record and the recent success of Mainz, I'm expecting Mainz to take a victory, but I'll take the safety on this bet with a double chance. I'm not actually sure why Dortmund are favoured considering the form that they're in. but I'm gonna take the bait, and I'm gonna put 1 unit on mines or draw on the double chance for plus 130.
Fantasy with FanTeam.
So here it is, the fantasy football segment. So those of you who are regulars, you will know I am partnered with FanTeam. For those of you that don't know, I'm partnered with FanTeam. FanTeam are the biggest DFS platform for fantasy football in Europe. They have hundreds of contests each week, ranging from all the major sports: football, basketball, baseball, NFL when that's back. You name it, it's there. Sportsbook is really competitive. I'm a daily user for fantasy football and for the sportsbook. So you want to head on over. But as part of the partnership I have with FanTeam, they've given me my own exclusive sign-up link. That will be in the description of this episode. If you click it, go through all the steps to sign up. If you deposit £10 and then bet £10, you will get £25 free. And from now until next Monday, you'll get an extra £10 free entry to the EPL Final Sprint, which I'll talk about in a minute. So there's a huge amount of value. Bet £10, get £35 free in effect. So head on over to that and get your lineups ready for the EPL Final Sprint, which starts next Tuesday. Touching on that, I did mention at the beginning of the episode, I'm doing a giveaway on my Twitter page as well. The link for my Twitter is in the link tree, which is also in the description. If you click on that, click over to my Twitter, you find the tweet that says the giveaway. All you've got to do to enter the giveaway is follow myself, follow FanTeam, and comment Final Sprint, and you'll be entered into a draw, which you can win one of 3 free tickets for the EPL Final Sprint as well. So that's an extra way to get another free entry into the contest. I did mention the Final Sprint in my episode last week, but I'm going to run down again for those of you that didn't hear, or maybe you missed it. I'll run through a few points that I had from that episode. I'm going to start off with a few sort of strategic points that I take into fantasy football and how I select my teams and things like that. So the first one is don't be afraid to go against the grain. So if you see a lot of people taking sort of all the top players, the most expensive players, and you're not sort of feeling that player, don't be afraid not to pick it. If everyone's picking one particular player, everyone's going to get the same amount of points. So if you go against the grain, pick someone else, you can potentially get some points that no one else has got. Next point I'm going to make is, don't be afraid to buy those expensive players. I always talk about value players, things like that, but buying those expensive players can also win you loads of points. I think the most expensive player at the moment is Haaland. Haaland's got a very, very good chance of scoring a lot of goals and a lot of points. So don't be afraid to use a lot of your budget on Haaland. And then obviously this goes hand in hand. Finding value players is key to building a solid, well-rounded squad. So if you're going to use a lot of your money on those expensive players, you need to find some value players that can get you points as well. And obviously the point of having the value players is to make your price of your players lower to be able to buy those expensive players. So find a value player that you like and statistically has a lot of chance to get higher points. And then obviously the lower the value, the less likely people are actually to pick those players as well. People like to go for the high price tags and things like that. So try and have a look around, have a shop around of those value players with high upsides but low prices. Always keep an eye on upcoming fixtures and sort of strengthened schedules. I know a lot of teams this year have a few games where they'll play sort of the top end teams like Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, things like that, who are all defensively solid. Keep an eye out for those games and use your transfers sort of in hand with those. If you pick a base team and then you sort of see down the line maybe a striker's going to play a really tough defense, you might want to sub out that striker for that one particular game. So use that. Make sure you use those subs at the right time for the right players. And then finally, the biggest part of this is to have fun. I love fantasy football. I love everyone loves being their own sort of manager. Everyone has their own opinion on who they think is better than Haaland or who's the better defender in the league. Put that to the test. Be your own sort of manager of your fantasy team and have fun doing it. It's really, really fun thing to do. And obviously at the end of it, you can potentially win some money. So have fun. Keep those points in mind when you select your teams. I will run down a few of my sort of points that I have for the EPL Final Sprint that I mentioned in the last episode. So yeah, again, I love fantasy football. I actually missed out on the season-long contest at the beginning of the season, so this is my opportunity to be able to get back into sort of a mini season-long with the last 9 weeks. So a little breakdown for this contest. It'll run for the final nine weeks, as I said. You've got 2 teams that will play 10 games, and that's Crystal Palace and Newcastle. So obviously add that into your factoring for when you pick your teams. You've got 85 million to build a team of 11 players. There's no bench. You will receive 5 free transfers each game week, and again, remember to use those in line with the fixture list and things like that, and strength of schedules. There's also a safety net, which is a really, really cool feature that I really like. It's a cool thing to have. It means you can play with a little bit of risk on your selections. The point of the safety net is if you select a player that doesn't start, they will be replaced by a player from the same team in a similar position who is the closest in price. And obviously, again, you can play with a little bit more risk, knowing that you won't fully lose out on points if they don't start. So there's obviously many entrants in this competition, and a lot of those people are going to be picking similar players for captains. Obviously, there's 3 obvious captain selections in my opinion. You got Haaland, Salah, and Isak. They give most teams the best chance at winning games. Their goal scoring, the goal contributions, even the assists and things like that, shots on target. So it's a no-brainer to sort of select those 3. It's probably a little bit too risky not to pick one. So again, go back to the point I made where I said don't be afraid to use a lot of your budget on the high expensive players. So you got Haaland at 14.2 million. He's the second highest striker in fantasy football this year. He has a total of 171 fantasy points. He averages 6.1. He's found some form. He's got 10 goal contributions in his last 10 games. He's actually scored 2 goals in international duty as well last week. On the year, Haaland has 24 goal contributions. Just over 40% of Man City's total goals have come through Haaland. Man City's fixtures for the rest of the season will see him face 7 teams in the bottom half of the league, then play 9th place Villa and 10th place Bournemouth. So Haaland has a really nice end to the season, and you probably won't have to worry about using one of your transfers on Haaland, as he's got a very nice strength of schedule to end the season. Isak is 9.1 million, so a little bit more value-based pick in that one. He's significantly lower than Haaland. But behind Haaland in terms of fantasy points is Isak. But he does rank as the best striker this season with 169 points. He averages 6.8 per game. Like Haaland, Isak has 24 goal contributions, but he actually accounts for 50% of Newcastle's total goals. Newcastle have a run of 7 games where they face teams ranked below them in the league, with Villa being the most difficult in that span. Newcastle are very close to a top 4 finish, and winning these kind of games is crucial for them. And obviously, Isak is going to have to score goals for them to win games. Side note, Newcastle play 10 times, so you can get an extra game for Isak in this competition. And then the final one, Salah, 13.2 million. He is a midfielder, but he's classed as a forward on the pitch. So he will get a little bit more points for a goal. He'll get 1 more point for a goal and things like that. But Salah has the most fantasy points in the league this season by a huge 125 points. He currently has 306. Second place Cole Palmer has 181. Salah's ranked as the number 1 midfielder. He averages 10.6 points per match. He has 44 goal contributions this year, which accounts for 63% of Liverpool's total goals. Liverpool have a run of 5 games where 4 of those are sitting outside of the top 10. That gives him a nice run of matchup for the foreseeable future. And then obviously again, you can sort of use your transfer to transfer him out for a game or 2, things like that. But for me, Salah is probably the best option for captain in this competition. In terms of value, there's a lot of players you can pick for value players. Don't be afraid to have a route around of your own and try and find your own angles and things like that. But I've gone for Tavernier from Bournemouth as a value option. I think Tavernier is ideal. His form might not be very consistent, but he can score points for your team. He averages 3 points per game. He does have 9 goal contributions on the season, so he can pop up every now and again with an extra few points from time to time. He's also a guy who's often overlooked. He's only been selected a handful of times. Bournemouth have some tough games, and they have some favourable games, but they do have to play Arsenal, Man City in the final 4 weeks of the league, so you can use one of your transfers in that little tough patch that Bournemouth have. Another one is Munoz. He's worth 5 million. He'll be in a lot of my teams this year. He's actually ranking as the second most informed defender in the league right now. He's the 6th best overall, averaging 4.1 per game. He plays as a wing back, so majority of the time he's playing more midfield than defence. That can be a good thing for point scoring. He'll get higher points for a defender scoring or assisting than he will for an attacker. Munoz has only scored under his average of 3 in 3 of his last 11 games. He has 9 clean sheets, 8 goal contributions. Palace are fighting to get into the top 10. They do play some really tough teams, playing 4 in the top 6, but they are one of the 2 teams that have a double game week, meaning he gets an extra game to score you points. So bear that in mind when you pick, Munoz or anyone else that plays for Palace. The next one, in my opinion, I've gone for him a few times. Pedro for Brighton. He's worth 6.3 million. Pedro's actually ranked as the most informed striker. He averages 4.8 points per game. That puts him inside the top 8. He's got 30 points in his last 4 games, but he only had 1 point against Man City, meaning the 3 games prior, he had 29 total points. Brighton are in 7th, fighting for European football. With their current schedule, they're in prime position to do so. They only actually have to play Newcastle and Liverpool, who are higher than them in the table. So, again, strength of schedule could be very favourable for Pedro. I fully expect him to be their go-to guy. I think he can add to his 14 goal contributions in 20 starts this year, especially after having the confidence to be called up for Brazil in the international break just gone. And then there's a few must-haves, in my opinion, that you have to have in your team. So one of those is Bruno. He's worth 8.5 million. He's on the verge of sort of the value option. Bruno's the 6th most fantasy points in the league this year. He plays on arguably one of the worst teams in the league. Man City, Man United haven't been good at all. He's been the biggest bright spark in the league, in the team, in the league. He gives them the best chance to win games. His creativity is unbelievable. He averages 5.4 points per game, ranks him as the 4th best midfielder of this season. In his last 3 games, Bruno has 5 goals, 2 assists, resulting in 7 points for Man United. Also, his last 4 Premier League games, he scored 9 or more in all 4. He also got 10 goal contributions in his last 7 games. They haven't had a difficult, stretch of games, but they do have to face Man City, Forest, and Newcastle in the next 3. But then none of the games for Man United have been really difficult this year. They've made it difficult for themselves. So they're going to be playing out those tough grinding games to end the season. Okay, next up is going to be Chris Wood. He will cost you 7.1 million. He's also close to being a value selection, obviously lower in price than Bruno. In my opinion, if you can add Wood to Haaland or Isak or even both, then you should get yourself a nice amount of points from your strikers. Wood is the 3rd highest ranked striker behind both Isak and Haaland, averaging 6 points per game, but is still valued behind 10 other players. Wood has got 21 goal contributions this season. He's in a little dry patch, going scoreless in his last 3 Premier League games, but he did just score a hat-trick for New Zealand in the international break, so that obviously hasn't affected his confidence. Forest have an ideal schedule to end the season, facing all 8 teams ranked lower than themselves to end the year. So again, another one of those players you could effectively draft in and then not have to worry about subbing him out unless he's in a dry patch again. Another must-have, in my opinion, is Gvardiol for Man City. He'll cost 6.2 million. I was actually torn between Gvardiol and Van Dijk for my main defensive player, but although Liverpool conceded the 2nd least amount of goals this season, I decided with Gvardiol. Man City actually have the easiest closing schedule to end the year. They face only Villa from teams inside the top 10. He averages only 3.8 points per game, but his next 3 games are against 3 teams who are lower on the lower end of the scoring. I think Everton is one of those. With a favourable schedule, Man City, they've got the favourable schedule. I'd expect more points from their defence. They should be able to keep tight to end the year. He's also been able to attack a fair little bit as well. He's scored 5 goals on the year, but I'm not picking him for his goal scoring, more his goal protecting, if you like. Also, I think it's vital to select the top end goalkeeper. Fortunately, the top goalkeepers are reasonably priced, so I've picked out 2 who have solid defences in front of them. Both keepers and teams have conceded some of the least amount of goals this year. So I'm going to start with Raya. He'll cost you 5.8 million. So Raya and Arsenal have conceded just 24 goals in the Premier League this season, which is the league lowest. Raya averages 4 points per game. He's only conceded 3 in his last 7 games in the Premier League. He's got 11 clean sheets on the year. He has 71 saves and he averages 2.5 saves per game. Arsenal only really play Liverpool to end the season that are a credible threat on their goals. So again, another player. I don't tend to sub out keepers too often anyway, but you don't have to really worry about his opposition or anything like that. And then the next one I'm going to go for Sells as well. He's 5.1 million for Forest. So the Forest goalkeeper, another solid option. His team have conceded the 4th least amount of goals with 35. Sells actually averages slightly more points than Raya with 4.4, but he has played some tough teams in the last few weeks. He played Man City, Arsenal and Newcastle in back-to-back weeks. Sells has got 12 clean sheets. He averages 3 saves per game, so a little bit more of an uptick in productivity from Sells to Raya. Their upcoming schedule is a nice one as well. That should help solidify the Champions League campaign for next year. Only facing Chelsea in the final week, who are a threat to their top 4 finish. So either one of those two in your goal can obviously solidify things at the back. So hopefully that actually helped out with your EPL Final Sprint Contest teams. Hopefully you can take some of that information that I've thrown out, use it for your own team in your selections. And again, don't forget to go back through the points that I made at the beginning. Don't be scared to buy those high value players. Use your subs when you need to. Don't be scared to use those subs. They're there for a reason. Also, don't forget to check the schedules and things like that to end the year. Obviously, using your subs in those situations can help you get more points. Obviously, again, don't be afraid to go against the grain. If someone's picking Haaland all the time, don't be afraid to go for someone else that not many people have picked. It'll separate you from the rest. And then also finally remember to have some fun doing it as well. I certainly will be. Again, don't forget to go over to my Twitter for the competition, the giveaway. I'm giving away 3 free tickets for the EPL Sprint. So go to my Twitter, follow me, follow FanTeam, and then comment Final Sprint for your chance to win a free ticket. With that being said, I'm going to go over now to this weekend's FA Cup contests on FanTeam. There's 4 games in the FA Cup, as I mentioned earlier on the betting slate. I'm going to go over these for the three contests I'm going to go for the FA Cup this weekend. Again, as I mentioned, it's the first bit of English football action since the international break. So I'm not going to focus on one game in particular, but I am going to get back into my usual format of suggesting a captain and then a value option for each game, obviously minus the Aston Villa game. So the first one, Fulham versus Palace. This contest has a 44 million team cap, so you get to pick 5 players in this team. My value pick, in my opinion, is going to be Nketiah for 7.4 million. I'm going to take a chance on Nketiah. Mateta will be out for this game, who would normally be the Palace striker, but since Mateta got injured, Nketiah has bagged 2 goals. I think a lot of people will be looking towards the likes of Jimenez or Sarr for the forward options in this game. I think the confidence of Nketiah will shine through. Goal scorers for Palace have been hard to come by recently. I believe Nketiah will get most of their chances if he's playing in that central role up front. He's going to be fed the ball a little bit, and he's a very fast player as well. He can play on the shoulder. He can create some chances, so hopefully he can get a few goals. And then I'm actually going to captain Jimenez on the other side. It's hard to go against Jimenez at the moment. He's got 4 goals in 2 games for Mexico last week. He got a player of the tournament trophy as well, and a Nation League trophy winner, a winner's trophy as well. Confidence for him is sky high. A goal against Brighton a few games before the international break won't help break that confidence barrier as well. With the safety net this week, if Jimenez doesn't play for whatever reason, Munoz is a solid replacement. He's got 3 goal contributions in his last 4 games. Fulham have a real nice problem with 2 informed strikers. Now, Jimenez did start the season as the number 1 striker. He did get outplayed by Munoz towards the end of, coming to the international break. So for whatever reason, if they do decide to go for Munoz, you will get the safety net from Jimenez. If you pick Jimenez as your captain, it'll automatically go to Munoz as well. So into the next game, Brighton v Forest. This is an unlimited team cap, so you can pick anyone and everyone. So that's exactly what I've done. So my first player I'm going to mention is the captain. I'm going for captain for Pedro. He's 10.7 million. I've mentioned Pedro a lot, and I'll mention him again today. 5 contributions in his last 5 games. He's been Brighton's best chance at scoring recently. He's getting a run out for Brazil. That'll do his confidence no harm either. Pedro's got 15 goal contributions in 20 starts this year, and I think he's going to add to that impressive record this weekend against Forest. For my value pick for this game, I'm going to go for Chris Wood. He's 7.6 million. The last time these two teams faced, Wood scored a hat-trick. And coincidentally, he scored a hat-trick for New Zealand last week as well. So he now has 4 goals in his last 2 games against Brighton. And while his form isn't too good at the moment, it's an ideal time to buy low. He's a cheaper option. Normally, if he was in form, he would be sort of 10 million at least. But 7.6 million is truly good value. It only takes sort of one decent ball into the box, and Wood will be there to finish it off. In total, he's got 21 goal contributions in the Premier League. He gives Forest their best chance, and he's the best option for scoring goals. Obviously, in that contest, value doesn't really come into it, obviously, because the unlimited team cap. But if you've got Pedro and Wood, both as your strikers, I'm expecting quite a lot of goals in this game. For the final game of the week, it's Man City and Bournemouth, and again, that's an unlimited team cap. So the obvious choice is going to be Haaland, 11.1 million. A lot will go for him this week, but I think he's too much of a high risk not to go for him. I know I mentioned going against the grain and all that kind of thing in the season long. With these being sort of a one and done contest, I feel like everyone's going to be picking Haaland, so you've got to go with the grain on this one. He's got 10 goal contributions in his last 10 games. Man City they've been mediocre recently, but Haaland has been a consistent threat in each game. This is their last shot at silverware. I expect Haaland to take this game to Bournemouth. He's only had 1 goal against Bournemouth in his career, but I think he changes that this weekend. I think he adds to his 46 total goal contributions this year. Yes, I said that right, 46 total goal contributions since this time last year. So I think he adds to that again this weekend. I think he's the best option for Man City to score. And the value pick, again, doesn't really come into it because obviously the unlimited budget. I'm going to go for Cliver at 9.9 million, so not much of a value option, but not a lot of players are valued nicely in this game, hence the unlimited budget. Luckily, it's a game that has unlimited budget to pick your team, so you can pick the top expensive players if you need to and if you want to. Cliver is in just as good form as Haaland at the moment. He's got 9 contributions in his last 10 games for Bournemouth. He added another assist on international duty. His confidence is flying. 21 goal contributions this season in all competitions. Bournemouth hasn't beaten Man City often, but their recent head-to-head, they've won 2-1. Playing a game at home will give them a much-needed boost, and players like Cliver, they're going to need to show up to impress, and if they want to stand any chance at winning, it's going to be down to players like Cliver to get that done. So there's my captain suggestions and value options for this week's FA Cup Fantasy Football. Again, remember to click the link in the episode description. Use that link, deposit £10, bet £10, you get £35 free. So make sure you do that and have some fun playing some fantasy football this weekend.
Elite Wagers Weekend Parlay.
So it's time for the weekend-long parlay. The whole idea of my weekend-long parlay is 5 legs from 5 different sports across games from the weekend. It gets you interested in all sorts of different sports, and it's fun to tail across the whole weekend too. So we've got a little bit of baseball now. MLB's back. We've got some hockey, college basketball, one of the FA Cup games, and we've got some UFC as well. So I'll go down, have a little breakdown of why I picked each one. We're actually going for 3 in a row this week. I've hit back-to-back in back-to-back weeks. This one might be my favourite one yet, and we've got some really nice odds as well. So the first one is going to be the game in the early hours of tonight. If you're from the UK, it's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be Mariners first 5 money line So Castillo gets the nod in this one against the poor A's team. He's been a solid pitcher for years. He's only ever had one season with an ERA over 4. He's been historically good against the A's with 2 earned runs in all 3 matchups, winning all 3 games in the first 5 innings. Yesterday, the bats for Seattle didn't warm up until the end of the game, but I expect them to want to come out swinging, start hot, and secure a more comfortable win. And I definitely think the bats of Seattle are a lot better than Oakland A's. Well, they're not called Oakland A's, the Athletics anymore. So, Mariners first 5 money line. The next one is going to be the Vegas Golden Knights money line in the NHL. So the Golden Knights are in some really nice form. They've won 4 straight, with all 4 being by 2 or more goals. All 4 opponents ranked significantly higher than the Blackhawks as well. So they themselves are second from bottom in the West. The Blackhawks have been bad this year. They have won just 2 of the last 10 matches, so I expect a big Golden Knights win in this one. The next one I'm going to go for is Palace team total over 0.5. So basically Palace to score a goal. As mentioned earlier, Palace away from home have been exceptional. I think they will be able to keep Fulham quiet and win this game within 90 minutes. Palace have scored a goal in 14 straight games. They've scored multiples in 7 of the last 10 as well. So I think Palace to score a goal is a reasonable add for this parlay. We're going to go for the UFC play, and that's Moreno moneyline. So Moreno's a heavy favourite in this fight. It's easy to see why. The former champion is better in striking and grappling, despite having a lower striking output. 16 of his 22 wins have come inside the distance, making him a viable threat in all areas of the fight. His opponent, Urkog, is 5 fights into the UFC career. He has back-to-back losses as well. I believe Moreno will be hard to handle, and I think Moreno gets the win in this one. And then the final play is in the college basketball March Madness, and it's going to be Duke moneyline. I'm not a college basketball capper, but my good friend Daly is. DCB. He loves this stuff. He's invested into college basketball, and I asked him this morning, give me a leg for my parlay, and he said this one was the one to take. So if he says take it, we're going to take it. So the 5 plays are Mariners first 5 money line, Vegas Golden Knights money line, Duke money line, Crystal Palace team total over 0.5, and Moreno money line, and it's going to be plus 460. So better odds than last week and the week before, and we're going for 3 in a row. And I'm going to finish up. I'm going to wrap up there. Obviously, we've got some nice baseball on right now, so I'm going to get back to relaxing and watching some baseball. And I hope everyone has a very, very good weekend. Hope everyone has some fun tailing some sports, watching some sports, and I hope everyone has fun picking their fantasy lineups as well for the EPL Sprint. So if everyone could click the link in my bio below, use the sign up link as well, bet £10, get £35 free. Click the Linktree link as well for all my social medias. You can enter that giveaway that I've mentioned a few times. All you got to do, go over to my Twitter, find the tweet that says giveaway, follow myself, follow FanTeam, and comment Final Sprint for your chance to win. Follow me on all social medias as well. Like, subscribe, share, it's all free. Help me reach a wider audience, to help more people win some money. I'm going to leave it there. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and I'll catch you later.